Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another podcast episode. We are doing it via Facebook Live once again. So I want to invite everyone that's on Facebook right now to chime into the conversation. If you have questions for our guest, feel free to ask them. I will be sort of fielding all the questions as they come in. But last week, I reached out to my Facebook community and I asked all my followers to help me find some rock star female entrepreneurs that are absolutely out there crushing it and doing their thing. And I was inundated by suggestions. And our next guest was nominated by one of our mutual friends. And we got to conversing on PM, and I realized this girl is a perfect fit for this show. So without further ado, I want to introduce Sarah. I knew I was going to do that. Sarah Moore from 11 Media. What's going on? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's fine. You know what? I was like posting to the page anyway, so it was actually beautiful. That's my favorite intro officially. I'm now Amanda.
Let's see if the host could botch it up. That's the one thing that they can't do, and yet I have a tendency to do that all the time. So
a good way to make your guest feel a little less nervous.
Well, I told you offline, there is completely no script to this. We're going off the cuff, and I have a little bit of a framework that I follow, but that's even a little shaky. But I want to first start off by hearing your story, how you created 11 Lights Media, and where did that all come from?
Okay, so I created 11 Lights Media back in, I'm going to say 2015. It basically came from, there's a long story, and I always feel like it's too long, so I'm going to try and shorten it a little bit. Basically, I worked in corporate for a bit and became friends with our digital manager. And this is back in 2008, 2009, before social media was like a job description. Back the beginning of Twitter, not so much the beginning of Facebook, but really the beginning of traction in that area where it's like a thing to have a business on there. Mm-hmm. And she gave me some responsibilities in those areas, and I can't say I understood it. Like I'm not going to pretend like I was some social media prodigy, but I've always had tendencies towards marketing and advertising space, and I never really understood the difference. And I knew that I wanted to be in the digital space. So it was really kind of her to do that. We're still friends to this day. She lives in America, in San Francisco, working for Sephora, doing some fancy digital jobs. So shout out to Melanie Rowe, if she ever watches this. She basically gave me my first foray into the digital space. And then I was made redundant from that job, and 3 days later found out that I was pregnant. And I was ridiculously sick in that pregnancy, so it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But once I stopped being sick, which was like 5 months in, I got itchy feet, and I was like, I need to start a business. I need to be doing something. And I've always sort of been that way. Like for a lot of people, that manifests differently. That manifests in like, I need to do something, so I'll clean, or I'll go to the shops, or I'll build something, or I'll rearrange my furniture. But for me, it was always like, I never why? So I would always be thinking about business. And it actually never occurred to me, like all growing up, like having jobs, it never occurred to me that I was like a business person. I was just like, how can I improve this business? How can I, So anyways, long story short, I had another business with my mum and I wanted to do all the digital end of it, and ended up doing a lot of other stuff that I hated doing it. And so I said that I hated doing. We had that business for a few years, and I said, I really need to start my own agency. So we got rid of that one and I started 11 Lights Media. And this is where I am today is a very different iteration to how it started. So that's pretty much the backstory to it. There isn't some those stories where they're like, I was singing since I was 3 years old and then I got my shot on American Idol. It's like, it wasn't like that. It was like I feel like a deer in the headlights. I feel like I'm one of those people who is like, you reach 25 years old and you're like, oh, you're good at that thing.
Yeah.
It never twigged to you earlier.
Yeah.
I'm slow.
So my next question for you is this then. So what is exactly 11 Lights Media and what value does it provide to your audience? So who is your target audience and what value do you provide to them?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question, and it's something that I've really only started to nail down in, I would say, the last year.
Okay.
So as I said, we've been operating for a few years. And so I know the particulars of my client. I'm not going to necessarily go into that and bore people with it, but we deal with brands that are in a phase of their business where they're certainly not startup. They're in a phase where they're like, we want to build this business out to sell it. We want to build it out for legacy, like we want to hand it down. We're in that phase where we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed, and now we're in this place where we don't have a great social media presence. We're maybe not the hesitate to use this word, but the famous brand in our space, in that niche. Mm-hmm. So we help them do that. So we tend to work with businesses that have been around a little while, like at least 5 years, and at least doing a certain turnover, because you'll notice, especially being in the digital space, there's a lot of digital agencies and specialists who really cater to that startup market. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with that market, but I am first and foremost a creative. And so I really struggled with that market because the value's not on the creative. They say it is, but it's not, because their focus is putting food on the table the next day. And creative doesn't always do that. Mm-hmm. Creative is a long-term strategy, and I'm far more comfortable working long-term. I like the idea of working with someone for a long time, being able to iterate and being able to like know the brand intimately. Like, I become the voice of a brand. Mm-hmm. Like there's a number of brands out on the internet where if you interacted with them, you're interacting with me, but you wouldn't know because I know that voice so well and I've taken the time to make it so. So that's kind of who we work with, and that's the value that we bring over that long-term relationship, is that we essentially elevate them in their niche to being the go-to brand. That's our aim.
Got it. So my next question is this. So there's a lot of brands out there. There's a lot of businesses out there that struggle with articulating their value. They struggle with connecting with their audience, right? Yeah. So, where do you see the problem most when it comes to business owners, entrepreneurs, connecting their mission, connecting their purpose, connecting all that passion that they have that created their business in the first place, and getting that out into the audience of their target, right? So what's some of their biggest pain points?
Just before I answer that, I realize there's a really messy desk behind me. I'm tempted to just do this because it's really bugging me. I got a standing desk, right? And I love it, but I haven't got rid of the old desk and it's just got crap on it. So apologies for the visual noise. Apologies. So to answer your question, let's just call a spade a spade. Most people don't start their business because they have legacy in mind. And I feel like what you're talking about, like mission and the why, is legacy. It's understanding why you do what you do every day. And for a lot of us, it's a means to an end. We go, I want to make money. I'm good at this. Put two and two together. Or for other people, let's just pick something out of the blue, for example. So our accountant, for example, has worked in an accountancy from day dot since they finished uni, as far as I know. And now they're just starting their own business, but it's something that they already know. And they're like, I could make more money doing this on my own because I don't know his why, but I'm just saying, like, for a lot of people, that's what it is. They know the industry and they're like, I could do this and I could do it better. And so this idea, one thing that's really annoyed me in the digital space over time, and I get really frustrated, and nothing will make me turn off faster than someone who is very impractical and airy-fairy, and it's all about legacy straight up. The reality is that I reckon at least in the first 5 years of your business, it's about creating a sustainable business. And to think that you're in this place of having something deeper that pushes you on every day, it's so false. It's not. I don't think about anything deeper that beyond I need to make money this week because I'm the breadwinner. Like, it's really that simple. And I think for a lot of people, they've been lulled into this place of like, you need to have, like Simon Sinek, I love the guy, but all these people are starting businesses and like BSing, like just the amount of time they spend writing mission statements and doing this and doing that. And it's like, you know what? You need to go and validate the business and actually make it sustainable. Maybe once it's 6 figures, or maybe once it's in a place where you can live off it, then you start thinking about that deeper why, because it's the adrenaline of starting a business. And yes, I know adrenaline wears off in like 3 minutes, but like, bear with me in the metaphor. Mm-hmm. It's the adrenaline of starting a business that provides the motivation to keep going, and it provides the stamina for late nights and early mornings. And it's like checking your bank account and seeing all this money come in, and it's like, and it sounds like I'm money driven, but I'm not. I'm actually provision driven, if that makes sense. So it's like you need to make an income to look after your family, and so at some small level, I guess that is a why in some way. Yeah. So it sounds to me that like what you're saying is like, find the problem to solve, where people will be willing to pay you for that, and start generating some revenue, validate the business, then worry about creating that legacy and taking it to the next level. Right. That's interesting. I like that. I think that is very savvy business sense. I think all people should, just because you have a great idea doesn't mean you got to start a business around it, right? Right. You have to really, I love what you said about validating the business. It makes so much sense. How many people out there get this wild idea in their head and think it's the best thing since sliced bread? They dump thousands of dollars into it and they realize that nobody wants it, or they're not willing to buy. And I don't care how passionate you are about it. You know, if people aren't willing to buy it, then you're out of business. I mean, it is what it is. But, so my next question goes to connecting with your audience, right? Like, I noticed on the site, and I know you're in the process of rebranding, so I won't showcase the site right now because it's kind of under construction. But my thought was, the site that you did show me, it showed a little bit about like storytelling. And I wanted to get into that because storytelling is a lot about how you got to where you're at today, or why you're doing what you're doing. So how does that play into creating that connection with your audience? Like, what are some things that your clients weren't doing, but now are doing, and now seeing sort of the return, on investing in this? Well, typically, like, part of our strategy with every client is, if you don't do video, we won't work with you. for starters, like just at a very practical level, because every single social media platform is favoring video. So if you're not going to take it seriously and play to the method that's being favored, then we're not going to take you seriously, and we just assume you don't want to work with us. So for starters, we tend to incorporate a lot of video, like I really can't think of, I might have one client at the moment two clients actually, who were doing video before us, but in a different way. And so one of them, I work with them in a different way anyway. And the other one, so one of our clients does like a very produced show, because they create video for a DVD that's released every month. So we've created an online show for them. So in terms of creating a show or something visual, it connects with the audience because they haven't seen it before. And we tend to find that video is really community building. And that's how I built my own community. Like, that's how I started my business. I started content marketing. I never ran an ad. I never did any of that. I just started giving away my knowledge, and I built a business off the back of it. Now, it could have been faster if I'd implemented other things, but it's how I chose to start, because I had the luxury at the time of not being the sole income into the house. So I was able to take it a bit slower. And I do preference, and I do love organic growth, because I think that I think we can get very carried away with numbers, and you'll hear me be the first to preach that I have no problem with numbers, and I get really tired of seeing vanity metric rhetoric thrown around. But I think that you can lose your way a little bit, because you are onboarding so many people and not building that community. You're actually just adding to it, but you're not fostering relationship within it. So, and as you're building organically, those people are coming because their friends have told them, or they've shared, or they've seen it and they've interacted with it, and that kind of thing. So not poo-pooing ads at all, because we do those too. But so I feel like what we do with our clients is we're very community driven, because we're trying to create something where their customers and their clients buy out of loyalty and out of, you've given me so much, I want to invest back in you.
So let's talk about that. This is where I want to take the conversation going forward about building community, building an audience, and really, if you can share with our audience, what are some tactical things, but from a foundational standpoint, that will help you build community online. I think one of the biggest, I just had a client call right before us, and one of the biggest things she was struggling with was obscurity. She has this awesome business, and it's up there with like Stitch Fix. Like, say what you say about Stitch Fix, but it's a $1.5 billion business, right? And her business is just as good, but nobody knows who she is. And so she struggles with building this community online. And so for somebody that does this every day and helps their clients with it, what are some community building strategies that we can really focus in on and take away from today's episode and start applying immediately?
Yeah. So just even before we dive into that, I would say, and I have no idea who this person is or their strategy or anything, and you would have a better idea. I also have no idea what Stitch Fix is. Just like, I live in Australia, we're still running on radio. I would say, if you're not visible, you can't be seen. Like, it's as simple as that. You have to start being visible. And that could be as simple as starting to be on Instagram stories if you need to get comfortable with it, that kind of thing. But you have to be visible in order to be seen and found. So that's why we have a website, right? And that's why we have social media. But in terms of building community around what you do, I think we've moved on from not entirely, but we've moved on from download my 3 best tips to whatever, right? That's just like, nah, mate. I'm going to Google that and get it for free off the second listing on Google, not give you my email so you can spam me. So I think we have to be really strategic with that. But I mean, the simplest tactical thing that you can do, there's two parts to it. One, like I said, be visible, create content, but in addition to that, give away everything up here for free, right? Second part to that is learn the things around that help you promote it. So promotion is, I mean, I don't really buy into all these like little sayings and stuff, so I don't know them off by heart, but it's like 10% is content creation, 90% is promotion. That's BS, but it has merit in, like, I would say like 30 or 40% creation. The rest is promotion, right? Mm-hmm. Depending on what you do. Mm-hmm. So learn how to put a video on YouTube and video SEO it so that you become number one. It's not as hard as you might think it is. It's harder to get to number one in Google. So learn those things, learn the platforms, and understand, like, if you can understand that Facebook values live video over everything else at this point, you will be going live every single day. Yeah. Now, in saying that, I don't practice that, but I also don't have the time to be doing that. Mm-hmm. But if you have the time to be doing it, I have clients who have done that like for a month at a time, and their statistics, like, of engagement, of reach, of all those things. And by the way, I use those words because people understand them. Mm-hmm. And that translates into sales for this person. They only put their product on sale once a year, the one I'm thinking of.
Got it.
But the good that it did for his business is incredible. And then he was able to download all those he did for a month and turn it into a lead magnet, which was far more valuable than 3 tips to your marketing strategy or something. It was like literally 31 days of practical advice in his given niche, blah, 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 blah. And it's all in video. It's all done. It's all there. So I would get visible, give it all away for free. Don't hold anything back. Don't worry about people ripping you off. Don't worry about IP. Don't worry about, if you're in motion, you will always be ahead.
I like that. I like that. So I want to play devil's advocate a little bit, because I'm not a free guy. I don't give away anything for free other than, you know, the insight that I provide on my podcast, on my YouTube channel. And, you know, I don't hold anything back, to be honest with you.
So you do give your stuff away for free. You can't say you don't. Like, you have a podcast and a YouTube channel.
I get. All right. So here's the thing, though. Like, what I've noticed is people don't value free, but they'll value something that they paid $5,000 for, because, oh shit, I just invested $5,000 into that. And so what I've noticed is, not for me per se, because people do pay me what I want to be paid, which is a beautiful thing. But what I'm trying to say is, when you give away everything for free, I've seen it happen to other people where they've become friend zoned by their audience.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So that's why I want to bring this up, because, like, I don't want to see our audience get friend zoned because they gave so much away for free that now they don't have anything to sell. And people are like, oh, well, I'll just wait for him to come on live, or I'll just wait for her to come on live because she'll just give me the answers there anyway, and I don't have to pay for anything. And so, you know, how do you get through that? Or what is a way to kind of defeat that? So, you know.
So I have a few thoughts around that. The first is, it really depends what your business model is. So the person that I was just speaking about, my client who did that, 30-day live challenge kind of thing, he has an audience of about 11,000 at the moment, and he onboards about, I'm going to say 150-ish, 200 people just once a year. He does that. It's a recurring revenue model for him, and that's his thing, right? So he can spend the year giving it away because it builds his audience, right? Because the value in what he brings is that he does in person what most people do online. And the value in that in this day and age is like, right? So there's that. There's that thought. The other one is, I want to tell you about this. I know someone who recently got rid of their entire email list. Now, I don't know how big it was. It would definitely have been in the thousands. And they just deleted the whole thing. And they said, the only people I'm keeping are people who've purchased my product. And from now on, the only people I'm keeping on my email list are people that purchase things I create. So she creates things. She'll charge $7 for it. But
they bought,
right? So they're already in that purchase process. They're trusting her at a greater level. She's getting rid of tire kickers. It's actually quite genius. But what I would say, the value of people who do a lot of, now I don't know exactly what you do, so forgive me if I simplify what you do. But the value of what a lot of people who have online digital products do is that they've taken all their knowledge, formatted it and structured it in a way that is digestible, with oftentimes with some form of accountability or coaching or ongoing help that allows people to move from A to Z or A to B, right? So yeah, sure, I've put out everything. Like people who follow me religiously are probably bored of me by now because I say the same things over and over and over. And then if they become a client, I say the same things over and over and over again to them as well. I just do it for those people, right? But the value in me giving it away for free is that I was actually just filling out my project management thing that I used yesterday. And I was looking at how I was getting all my clients lately. And it's just like referral, like new client, like a referral from like a new client, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's because people value what I give them. And I think my community are doers. And so because of that, they don't need to necessarily pay for my service. And they're not necessarily in that place in their business. However, they know people who are, and they're able to refer them to me because I'm giving them so much value. They actually want to participate in building my business because they're in that reciprocity mode because I've given and given and given, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not the most consistent person on the planet. I am for my clients, but for myself, it's a whole other thing. But that's the school of thought for me, and that's how it works for me. But again, like if you've got a $5,000, whatever it is that you give away, like your business model might have to tweak a little. It might have to look a bit different. But it's funny because, again, I don't know what it is that's your paid service or product, but it's funny because you're like, I don't believe in giving stuff away. And then I'm like, you've got this podcast where you're literally getting on people who are doing it, like giving people everything anyway. And then you have a YouTube channel. And I'm not sure, are you as consistent with that as you are with this?
Oh, yeah.
There you go, my friend. You are totally believing in the free value model. Like you will always attract, here's the thing, you will always attract tire kickers. And I say that lovingly because I've been a tire kicker for other people as well. But I've been in that place because either I couldn't afford their service, but to be quite honest, most of the time it's because I implement, right? So for a few years before I started my agency, I was a consumer. I consumed and consumed because I was so afraid of getting it wrong. And I was so afraid of being like launching and being subpar because I'm a perfectionist as well as being a creative. Like that's pretty normal. And so I consumed and consumed until I got to this point of complete consumption where I was like, if I consume another thing, I'm going to keel over and die because I'm so full. And I actually started resenting seeing content. I was like, I had to take a step back and stop consuming anything. And I rarely consume these days. Like, if I'm honest, like, I consume Gary Vee a handful of times a year. And it's funny, I only consume him because he's the only person who doesn't know me personally that can motivate me and kick me up the butt when I'm feeling sorry for myself, which, again, being a creative, like, that's pretty normal state of play. A couple of times a year you fall into a hole and you're like, I gotta do this, I'm not good, everything I produce is crap, and so I watch a few of his and he's just like, suck it up, get over it, move on, you have the power to change yourself, 1 is greater than 0, all these lame things he's made up but that actually motivate me, so
yeah, that makes so much sense. And it's so powerful that you say that. And real quick, we have Peter Moss on Facebook Live, and he said, Sarah without 3 coffees is still on point. Please keep repeating. It's powerful. So big shout out to Peter Moss for joining the Facebook Live. It's funny that you say that. So just to give you a quick background. So I'm a creative as well. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I began as a graphic designer 10.5 years ago, which now has matured into a brand agency. And so now we do full brand development and client acquisition. And, we help clients really understand their customers and dive real deep into that. And then once we do all the strategy and the discovery and the diagnostic stuff, I have a team of 16 people under Unique Designz that actually build the whole thing out for them. It's not like we give them this little box that says, okay, here's all the information you need, go and figure it out. Actually implement and do everything for them. So that's sort of how we progressed to a one-man band graphic design, business, in 2007 to where I'm at today. So that's super high level, 30-second, what I do. And so, but I love what you're saying about over consuming content, feeling afraid of not doing it right. I just want to go back there a second because there's so many of our listeners that are listening and watching and going, man, she's absolutely right. I'm scared to take the next step because God forbid I do it wrong, or God forbid, there was something happened to me personally last week. And I said to myself, fine, it happened. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And I started and I rattled off like 3 things. And I was like, okay, you done? And I was like, yeah, you're done. And then I was like, well, you're still going to live. You're still going to have a business. You're going to have a house over you. You're going to have a roof over your head. Tomorrow will come, and I'm not saying take tomorrow for granted, but what I'm saying is 9 times out of 10, it's really not that big of a deal. So like kind of, how do I say this and say it nicely, but kind of like get over yourself and just get out there and do. So I just wanted to unpack that and really shed some light onto what you just said, because that is really, really powerful. And that's one of the reasons why I bring guests on the show. We were talking about this offline, but the reason why I bring guests on the show is because we're all in this entrepreneurial journey together. And if you think that we're not, and you're trying to do this all by yourself, then, I kind of feel bad for you because it's going to be a lonely road. And I don't know if you're ever going to get to where you want to be. And so the reason why I bring on guests and I'm doing this whole female entrepreneurial showcase this week is because I want other female entrepreneurs out there to know that there's other gals just like you that are probably going through the same trials and tribulations. And I love that you are bringing this all to light because that's powerful stuff. So getting back to building community and some of the tactical strategies that we can talk about before we start to wrap this up is, one is, you mentioned before, get out there and just do it. Get out there in front of video. And even though if you're afraid, just practice if you have to, in a quiet room or by yourself, just get familiar with the camera, the way you look, the way you sound, and do, right? And then from there, you said, give away your knowledge for free. And again, we debated on this a little bit, but I may be a little bit of a hypocrite here because I do a lot of that, but I want to spin it and I want to just share with the audience as well. On top of doing what Sarah mentioned, as far as getting out there and kind of giving away your knowledge for free, What I would like to say on top of that is to demonstrate your expertise. And so if you're saying to yourself, well, what do I talk about online? Like, I don't know. Like, she says to create content, but I don't know what content to create.
Yep.
Well, there's a big thing, if you don't know your audience, then you're right. You're not going to know what to put out there.
Yeah.
And so I spend 60% of my week, maybe even 70% of my week, studying my audience. And then that other sort of 20%, I am mastering my craft. And then that other 10%, I'm kind of talking to my audience because I know exactly what keeps them up at night. And so I just wanted to add that into and back up what you were saying as far as getting out there. Now, another person on Facebook Live said, Keith Copeland said, getting people into a closed Facebook group lets you give it away your insight and knowledge and expertise and helps you build your tribe. And I totally agree with that. Now, do you have anything to add to that to sort of explain to people how important that is?
Yeah, I would actually want to add something to that that's probably a little bit controversial, but if you're going to start a Facebook group, make sure you've already thought out what it will look like and what it will do, because so many people start groups, especially now that there's data and analytics on the back of it. And most groups fail because there's already another one better. And so why would I be a part of that community? You have to think about a group is almost like starting a new business. Like, what's your point of difference? What are you going to give there that's better than your Facebook page? And I understand that people, they get the, you've got to deal with the algorithm on your page. But I'll tell, like, a hot tip, like, people turn off their notifications for groups too. So you still have to find a way that they either want to turn on their notifications or they don't want to turn your notifications off. There is only one group I belong to where my notifications are on, and that's actually the group that I'm in with Todd, our mutual friend. Mm-hmm. So because it's just my life support, my lifeline. There's about 10 or 12 of us that are like, it's like got 400 people in it, but it's secret. It's like there's 10 or 12 of us that are super active, and it's like if someone posts, I'm there to see what they post, because they're my close friends. So I would just say that, but I don't know if that's helpful to anyone.
Well, I want to add to that, and it's funny. Again, do your homework before you set out and do something, whether it be business, entrepreneurial, online, on social. Like, I get it, right? And I want to add to that, and I think to answer that question is to create engagement. Like, and so you kind of said it, but you didn't say it. The reason why that's the only group that you have your notifications on still for is because it's extremely engaging to you, and you got those 12 people that are, like you said, your lifeline, but you engage each other. And how do you engage? Well, you ask questions. You connect people with other people, that are in the group that may be of benefit to that person. I had somebody come into my group last week and say, I need some help with Facebook videos, like ads. How do we craft them? How do we put them together? And so there's a bunch of people in my group that are video sort of experts, right? I have some real high-end people, and I have some guys that will get their hands dirty, and they're looking to just grind it out and start. And, they'll work for free, for Christ's sake, because they just want to get the experience, right? So one or two people came to mind, and I just tagged them, and I said, Mike, this is the person you want to talk to. And boom, they were on a call the next day because they both hit me up on private messenger and said, thanks for hooking us up. And so, if you want to create a Facebook group that's thriving and it's different from everybody else, then engage that group. And, I know Dan Meredith does one hell of a job with his Facebook group, and I've watched it grow from 2,000 people to last I looked, maybe it was 12,000. I forget, but it didn't happen overnight. I'll tell you that. But he's got a very engaging group, and he's really got that dialed in. So I love what you're saying there as far as group, and I'm glad that you brought up what you brought up, because again, there's a gazillion groups out there, and why be part of yours when there's 10 others that are better?
Yeah, exactly. Like I've got a very niche client, and he has a very loyal audience, and I've flirted with the idea of going, we need to have a group, but at the same time, I know that I'll be the one managing that group, and it's like I would rather fight with the algorithm at this stage than create a group where there's no vision and there's no like, why are we here? Or they feel like they're going to be monetized at some point. So, yeah, it's just an interesting thing. And I think that you have to be like, starting a group is the hardest.
Yeah.
It's always the hardest.
Yeah. Hands down. I mean, trying to start a Facebook group from scratch, you're going to feel defeated. You're going to feel like, there's nowhere else to go. Like, I should just scrap this whole idea. It's not worth it. I'll figure it out, or I'll just pay for ads, whatever the case may be. Yeah. But I tell you, so much, I've created such great relationships with people inside of my group, which just inherently became clients. I mean, that's just how it worked, because they really got to know me and understand my purpose and all of that, which is great. But so I want to sort of turn the corner, sort of wrap up and just sort of do a quick overview of building community and building an audience and the tactical and strategic ways to do that. Like you mentioned, is, again, give away your information, show that you're an expert, a subject matter expert, by giving away the knowledge that you know. I back that up by saying demonstrate your expertise and show them that you are competent and that you do know what you're talking about, and you're a practitioner. The other one is, and help me out here if I forget any, the other one is just to get out and do it and stop being so afraid, or get over yourself, if you will, and just start practicing, because after the first week, you're going to feel a hell of a lot more confident than day one, and stop feeling like you're going to not do it right. Because guess what? Everybody on this podcast, including Sarah, me, and all my other guests in the past, we've all not done it right at one point.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure out how to do it right. And that's going to be a constant until, we pack up and leave this earth. So, I mean, to have that mindset, it's, that's what's going to keep you going. And then building a Facebook community and understanding Facebook groups and how important that is, and like understanding the purpose of the group before you even start it, what it looks like, what it's supposed to do for the members. Very, very important stuff before, embarking on that. Did I miss anything?
No, but I would like to add just one more thing to that. And it's something I touched on earlier. If anyone's feeling stuck, especially with content creation, or just even in their business, like they're just like, I don't have a marketing budget, but I need to be visible. And they're like, their wheels are turning, like they're spinning, right? But they're not getting any traction. What I would say is the best thing you can do, the best thing for your mental health, for your business, and for even just like the learning curve of business and moving forward, is to get out there and create content, especially video. Just do it. Just even if it's just live streaming, which means you don't need equipment. Like I literally have my MacBook pointed at me right now. That's it. So do it, because motion, it's perpetual, right? So once you start, even if it's super slow, like it takes ages for a steam train to start, but once it starts, it's much easier for it to keep going. And I think a lot of the time the most difficult part is starting, but the amount of relief and purpose starting to create content will give you in your business, and the new conversations it will bring and the doors it will open will be absolutely priceless. So start, because motion will unlock a whole lot of things that internally and even externally feel like they're going wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll add to that. Again, like think about it on the flip side. Think about when that locomotive gets the momentum and starts to build up that speed. Like you don't stop a locomotive that's doing 80 miles an hour on the track by, just slamming on the brakes. It doesn't happen, and I'm a firm believer in that. And I feel like that's what has gotten me past gotten me to continue that. Like, I feel like I'm running downhill lately versus uphill, because I have all this momentum behind me. Finally, the team has been built out. Finally, I've refined my message. Finally, I've refined my process, to help my clients go from point A to point B in a very, systematic way. That takes time. That takes effort. That takes energy, and if you don't continue to hash that out and refine that, you're going to feel stuck. And so, I'm with you, Sarah. You just got to continue to move forward. The more you move forward, the better off you're going to be. And it's so funny. My sales coach the other day, I love him to death. He's a wise man. And he's been in sales for like 40 years. And he said, there's a reason why your windshield is bigger than your rear view mirror. He says, because we're not going that way. Yeah. And I just love that. And we'll wrap that up. We'll wrap this episode up with that, because that just gave me the drive and the boost because I was sort of like in a funk when I was talking to him. And when he told me that, I was just like, I perked up, like I had 17 cups of espresso, and I was like, where are we going? Like we got work to do. And, so real quick, for those that are listening that want to follow you on social media and learn more about you, where can we find Sarah Moore online?
So, as you might expect, I'm pretty much everywhere, but for the most part, I hang out on Instagram. So, and I'll give you both my handles, because I only started a business one last year sometime. And when I started everything under my personal brand before I made like a corporate kind of brand. So I'm either at 11 Lights Media or _Sarah_Moore, which is horrible, isn't it? And I'm also, I love Twitter. So come tweet me at the Sarah Moore. Otherwise, Facebook, 11 Lights Media. I haven't put out content in about a month, which is so ridiculously slack, but that's what happens when you're busy. Wow. Actually, no, I need to plug my YouTube page, because I'm trying to grow that this year, because I'm putting everything out on there. And one thing I wanted to add is, when we're talking about perfection and stuff like that before, is I started to create a series, and I've still got videos that I need to put into it. We started it was a series called Create, and we've treated it like mini movies, and we talk about all the things that get in the way when you try and do anything. So when you try and create or start something. So we've done one on perfection, or perfectionism, and I interviewed an Australian travel blogger here who's like an incredible human, has the same last name as me, but no relation. And like I say, I interviewed, we've turned them into like a little mini documentary type thing. And I did a few others, like I did Fear, and I did, there's a couple up there. So I think there's one that I still haven't added up there that we've done. It's on my Facebook page. They're all on my Facebook page.
And how do they find you on YouTube?
So it's just search 11 Lights Media.
Oh, 11 Lights Media. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
awesome. Listen, Sarah, thank you so much for waking up. Like, I actually saw the sunrise in the back.
I know, this was dark when we started.
You woke up at like the ass crack of dawn to do this interview. So I just want to say thank you so much for spending your morning with us, and spending the time with us and sharing your expertise, sharing your insight, sharing your wisdom and knowledge on what it is that you do to help us grow bigger communities online, so we can get in front of the right people to help more people with our products and services. So there you have it, guys. Another podcast episode in the books as we continue our female entrepreneurial showcase. We have a bunch of guests coming up this week that are absolutely amazing. I was looking at some of them over the weekend that are all lined up, and I just cannot wait to share this with you. So the rest of the week, we're going to be interviewing and having co-hosts, just rock star female entrepreneurs like Sarah Moore that are continuing to make this world a better place and empowering and inspiring other people to just live happier lives, because that's what it is that I believe all of our purposes, and the people that I connect with, I feel like there's some alignment there. And so again, Sarah, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thanks for having me. I really had fun. Thank you.
Awesome. So real quick, guys, before I forget, if you haven't joined the Brand Doctors Hangout Facebook group, go and check that out right now. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast and or YouTube channel, please, I invite you to go and check that out and subscribe to that right now. And if you haven't shared it with a friend or a colleague, I appreciate you and thank you in advance for all of that. I'm signing out. I'll catch you on the next episode. Have an awesome day and keep rocking.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesignz.net.